Our favorite leaker, Centro Leaks, is back at it again. Or was. Hey trainers, it's Hazel and welcome to another video. I'm here and I'm gonna talk about microtransactions again! Just kidding. Or maybe? Well, okay, so there's this new cool leak called Pokemon Project Seed, and apparently it's supposed to be an MMO type deal, spanning across the 4 first generations, which, if true, would be extremely cool. But on the other hand, it seems as though they're foregoing traditional remakes, and I want my Gen 5 back, dang it! In any case, I'm going to explore what leaks we presently have and some ideas and speculation as to what this game, Project Seed, could hold. Let's get into it. So these leaks actually came out about half a year ago, but I only recently learned about them. Honestly, I'm extremely hyped about this. Hypothetically, it is in pre-production, which means we won't see it until nearly 2030, but it is supposed to span across Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh, and possibly more? The possibly more actually refers to Kitakami, which appeared in Scarlet and Violet DLC. I wonder if they'll add to this as time goes on. So as for the MMO part, we don't actually know a whole lot. Judging by the recent development with online play in Pokemon games though, maybe this whole time they've been working up to a grand MMO-style experience. I wouldn't be surprised at all though if we instead got something more like the Wi-Fi Plaza. So what could this look like and what do I think it should look like? Most likely this game will be developed by a third-party dev, which is truthfully a great thing. I think usually when third-party devs come in to work on Pokemon games, we get some of the best, the cream of the proverbial crop, the tail of a slowpoke, if you will. Think of games like Pokemon Snap for the Switch, developed by Bandai Namco, the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series, developed by Chunsoft, and even Pokopia, which was co-developed by Omega Force. Don't get me wrong, the mainline games have been steadily improving in scope and art direction, but I feel like when Game Freak gives their baby to a babysitter, the kid's gonna be extraordinary. I think when given to another studio, they feel like they have to do their best, especially with an incredibly popular franchise, so instead of phoning it in, they tend to put their best foot forward and yield an awesome result. If this is the case, which considering the scope of a 4th-generation MMO, I'm confident that Pokemon Project Seed will kick major ass for Berry. Each of these games mentioned brings a really unique flavor to the world of Pokemon and allows for the franchise to expand in new, exciting ways. Even when Game Freak decided to split themselves up, we got Legends Arceus, which, considering the newer team worked on that, I'm extremely impressed. In my opinion, we can only hope that Project Seed is, at the very least, co-developed by a third-party studio. I'm hoping we get an art style similar to Winds and Waves, honestly. I'm really enjoying these character designs and believe wholeheartedly that the improvements to the textures and graphical fidelity would allow Project Seed to flourish in today's gaming landscape. I do hope that they optimize it, and it may not be a complete open-world game, but if they somehow strike a balance between the semi-realistic art style and proper optimization, I think it could be the best game in the series by far. I also believe that it would be kind of cool to go back to the retro vibe. Not necessarily full-on 2D sprite work, but maybe a hybrid like Octopath Traveler? This could allow for easier optimization and more content to be added. No? Just me? Okay, moving on. How would the gameplay work? Would we all start in a single region and be able to branch out from there? This kind of ties into my open world comment. I could see this going in 2 ways. One, we get a complete open world where we can go to regions or gyms however we choose with minimal loading screens and exploration like World of Warcraft, or it's more of a standardized hub area with teleportation options. It may be a hybrid of the two, but I feel like it might be difficult for them to have 4 fully open regions like Scarlet and Violet and be able to travel among them seamlessly. Though not confirmed, it seems this game will be on the Switch too and not PC, which makes the complete open world option a little less believable. Which would you guys prefer? I'm a big fan of seamless open world, especially for an MMO's sake, and speaking, imagine this. You're able to start in any region you choose. The Pokemon from across regions scale up in level to you. Where would you go first? I personally would start in Hoenn, then move to Johto, and then Kanto. However, I would find it interesting if they barred the player from carrying over their old team into new regions. If this is the case, it would be a little disappointing. Kinda like having 4 separate games but on one cartridge since you'd have to start over again. If they allow for level scaling, it would be cool to see how they balance it. It may have to be downscaled, so by the end of the 4 regions, hypothetically, your Pokemon would be in the late 90s or level 100. I believe within individual regions, we'll be able to kinda go where we please, like Scarlet and Violet, but Pokemon won't necessarily scale with us. Also, forget difficulty options, since I think that's pretty universally a single-player thing. I kinda hope they make it a little more difficult than the mainline games, though. How do you think PvE League will work? Will there be individual Elite Fours and gyms and such, and then have an overarching league or area, kind of like the battle tower, where trainers from all over can test their skills. Honestly, I think these games would absolutely fit into the PvPvE category. Given raid battles in Scarlet and Violet as well as Sword and Shield, I think Game Freak is moving headfirst into large-scale raids that would feel right at home in an MMO environment. Especially with the rise and fall of Pokémon Go, it would be especially cool to see a nationwide or even international community event that furthers the game's development and lore. We've seen how teams and team mentality have worked in Pokémon Go. I would imagine how it could be similar to the World of Warcraft with Horde versus Alliance. Will there be room for wars and factions between regions, or will there not be much gateway for communication at all? I find an MMO on the Switch to be a tad difficult to picture, honestly. I mean, is this too much to ask? I don't think so, but I'm curious as to what you guys think. Speaking of the PvP part of PvPvE, how will competitive work? I think each region must have their own league and gyms and such, but is there an overall league of players? Perhaps a ghost battle situation where you can verse the top players in an offline battle to see if you can beat them? I believe an MMO would drastically open the Pokemon gaming scene competitively, if Pokemon Champions doesn't completely take them all away. I'm thinking like this simulation may actually assist and inspire the teams making Project Seed to fine-tune the battle mechanics for an MMO of this scale to succeed. Having weekly or monthly leaderboards full of the top players could be genuinely really cool, or going one step further, having leaderboards for the different Smogon tiers, which, yes, I understand Smogon isn't really an official partner, but it would be pretty rad. Perhaps other contests would be allowed as well, like beauty contests, or Pokemon breeding contests, and the like. At the very least, if they made it to where the community could easily facilitate these themselves, that would be incredible, but I understand this idea is pretty lofty. I just think that showcasing your team of curated Pokemon in a unique way would allow the community for Pokemon Project Seed to thrive and expand past its prime. I do hope that they either focus heavily on adding an incredibly intricate story that interweaves all regions or go all in on the battling. As for story beats, I would imagine they either have all the original stories plus a fun overarching one, or start completely from scratch and create a narrative that spans across every region. It would be really fun to see a new Pokemon Mythic or simple Legendary that causes mayhem across the 4 regions, and each region is subsequently altered due to this Pokemon's power. Perhaps the evil team could be brand new, or a combination of the many other evil teams which band together for one ultimate goal. The teams could move base operations to the different regions as they get defeated by the player, and it can culminate into different finale based on the last region you choose. Or, more likely, the final region could be locked for everyone to be unlocked at the same point in the story progression. I would be so hyped to see what new life they could breathe into these games, stories, and regions, considering all of them have had remakes at this point. Okay, so now for something really controversial. How will they monetize this? What will be the longevity of Pokemon Project Seed? Unpopular opinion, but, you know, microtransactions are the answer. Nothing pay to win, of course, please, nothing pay to win, but for something like cosmetics or purely story progression-wise, like PvE stuff, I think it could be an avenue they'd pursue. Not to mention the idea of DLC for a massive Pokemon game like this. They've already done shameless DLC for the previous Switch games, so why not add an entire other region for an extra $20, which, now that I think about it, is kind of pay to win, but maybe with the advent of GTS or general trading system or something, everyone could have access to newer mons, but not necessarily natively. Also, adding additional minigames or contests and the like could be new and exciting, and could offer new ways to play with Pokemon. Perhaps the addition of secret bases could return. Hopefully not having to pay extra for those though, but certain furniture I could see as an unfortunate microtransaction. Ultimately, the new exciting idea of Pokemon Project Seed could absolutely mean incredible things for the franchise going forward. What I want is a consistent, optimized, open-world experience that allows for our choices to matter and the community ties that allow for innovation in the franchise and its future. I don't want Kanto remakes for the 5th time. I want a brand new experience set in the nostalgic places we love, and these experiences to be able to play with friends. What do you guys want to see in the upcoming Pokemon Project Seed, and how do you want to play? Thanks guys, and keep training.